Next, Fiat, the Punto, the Grande Punto and the Panda. 3 small cars, one big problem. The owners who are too scared to drive them. Ricky Boleto reports.
The Fiat Grande Punto. Good looking, affordable, and most importantly, safe.
Small, chic and Italian. A winning combination, so I'd hope. But as for safety, I'm not so sure. There's a serious problem with the power steering on some Fiats that's costly to fix and potentially very dangerous. Not so attractive, after all.
Dominic Thoburn's first ever car was a Fiat Grande Punto. He bought it second-hand in 2010.
I always wanted a Fiat when I was younger. When I was around 16 years old, you'd see him around. I used to go around saying, I want that car, I want that car. Now I finally got one, so I'm all happy about that. I'm in the army, so I thought all my kit can go in the boot. It's economical and reliable.
Economical maybe, but less than a year after he bought the car, his problems with the power steering began.
Just driving along, the beep came up on the dashboard, then it was the power steering, made it really hard to turn, came really heavy, made driving really horrible for me.
A problem with the electrics had caused Dominic's power steering to fail once, and within weeks it went again. In fact, according to Dominic, it failed 50 times in the space of 6 months. Scary and costly.
Because my car wasn't under warranty, I had to fork the bill, which was £645 for a new steering column to be fitted in.
But for other Fiat Grande Punto owners, it's proved even more costly.
My Fiat Grande Punto is probably the most unreliable car I've ever had in my life because the power steering unit has failed twice, so it can go at any time, even on the motorway, driving at 70 miles an hour. I'd say I've definitely lost the confidence in driving the car, so much so I've had to take out the highest level insurance cover.
What does it feel like when the power steering failed?
It wasn't like driving a car, it's really, really heavy.
Of course, cars haven't always had power steering, and it's perfectly possible to drive without it. The problem comes when the system fails unexpectedly. The sudden switch to non-power steering makes the car incredibly difficult to handle, even for the most muscular motorist.
Now, I might know my cars, I might even impress you with a bit of Italian, but if it's brute strength you're after, then don't look at me, look at him.
Yes, meet Eddie Hall, the UK's strongest man. He can lift weights heavier than himself, he can shift 160 kilograms of solid stone, and he can drag a 30-ton truck.
But can Eddie drive this obstacle course without power steering?
Yes, it's the strongman's turn to drive Sarah's Fiat when the power steering cuts out without warning. Although Sarah's paid to have her car fixed, our car expert Mark Brown has a special device which can deactivate the power steering on her car at the flick of a switch. But Eddie will have no idea when it will happen, so here goes.
All right, and he's off. Looking good at the moment.
Yeah, it's taking a bit of speed up there.
Nice. Oh, but look, yeah, definitely something's gone.
Yes, once the system fails, Eddie has to struggle like mad to steer the wheel. His seatbelt even slips off his shoulder. Good thing we're on private land.
He's working it so hard to move that steering
having
wheel.
to slow right down.
That's one way to work his arm.
Doesn't need to go to the gym, I tell you.
Yeah.
So, if the power steering failure can even cause trouble for the UK's strongest man, what hope is there for other Fiat drivers? Watchdog has heard from 132 of them, all complaining about power steering failures on cars made between 2000 and 2008. Some own the Punto and Grande Punto, others, like John Falcini, own the Panda.
My parents are Italian, and as a kid, well, my father always had Italian cars, and when I went to Italy, I'd see all these Italian cars, and basically I love the brand, really. I've had about 30 Fiats on my driving life. I've had this car 5 years, and in the 5 years I've had 3 power steering units, and I'm really just fed up with it.
Made worse by the fact that John is a driving instructor.
It's a safety issue as well. I mean, I'm an experienced driver, and when it does go, it's still kind of, it's still a bit worrying.
Worrying and expensive. When it went for the 3rd time, the steering column wasn't under warranty. On writing to Fiat to complain, they said,
We don't accept that the problems being experienced are as a result of any manufacturing defect at this point in the vehicle's history. So they're basically saying it's not their fault.
Which is rubbish.
Watchdog phoned 5 independent garages around the UK who seem to be well aware of the issue, like the one in Scotland which said some Fiats do have problems and that the electric power steering can pack up, and the garage in Lincolnshire which described the problem with the Punto as a well-known common fault. In fact, 4 out of 5 garages told us that the power steering can be faulty on either the Fiat Punto or Panda.
So, what exactly is the problem, and should Fiat be taking responsibility for it?
The problem with the power steering lies on the electrical side, which develops an intermittent fault that in turn causes the loss of power steering. Given the fault lies with the electrical side of the steering column, which I think shouldn't happen in the lifetime of the car, I really think that Fiat ought to be paying to replace these units.
But until Fiat takes such action, it seems like owners will continue to have problems, and it may be easier for Eddie to pull the car rather than drive it.